Friends, this video is my follow-up video on my review of the Hapstone RS Knife Sharpener. In my first video, I sharpened Kevin's Spyderco Tenacious with the Venez Ulsa diamond stones. In this video, I will be using a Spyderco Ceramic stones on a Manix 2 lightweight with M4 steel. And I'm going to go over some details I skipped in the first video and also introduce some different kinds of stones and sharpening techniques. But before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. It's what keeps the channel going. Thank you. Alright, so I bought the Hapstone RS without stones because I already had this box full of stones here. These are the stones that came with my original Hapstone unit, and I have these in 120, 220, 400, 600, and 1000. These are the silicon carbide 6-inch stones, and they're not for use with soft metals. They have the aluminum backer that's tapered, goes right in the, I guess they call it an Edge Pro style retainer. Not sure about that, correct me if I'm wrong, but let me show you what it looks like for the sharpener here. So this is the arm that holds the stone, and on here both ends is tapered just like the stone there, and it's spring loaded that holds the stone. And as you see, the tapered ends of the stone get entered into each block, and you can adjust the length and make it easier to get in there. There's an Allen screw on the end, but fits in there nice and snug. And then the stone holder attaches to the arm. It's just a tube and a rod, and it just goes back and forth like that. I add a little oil to it and make it smoother, and it's got a wooden handle on one end, and the rod just comes out the other end. So if I go up too far, the rod pokes me in the hand, tells me my stroke is going up too high, and it makes it quick and easy to switch out stones from the one grit to the next. Now these stones do require the use of water, so you got to soak them before you use them, but they are good for the hardest of steels. I mean, they're good up to a Rockwell hardness of 65. They're going to do all the modern steels, and you can get this set for about $114 on Amazon. I've had these stones for 8 or so years, and they've held up great. They're still flat and level and got plenty of wear left on them. The only downside I have is the glue I've let go, probably from soaking, where the stone attaches to the aluminum blank, and I had to re-glue them. A few of them, but no big deal. Didn't take long, and they still work fine. Now this is another, it's a glass plate glued to aluminum backer, and that's for use with these polishing. It's just super fine. This is 3000, I got a 6000 grit, and they're polishing papers of what they call them. They're adhesive. Just a really fine sandpaper. You put it on that glass blank, and you use it when you really want a mirror polish on an edge. And let me tell you, I do that on an L-Max, and it is scary sharp. And I'm not joking. I mean, insanely sharp when I'm done. It just beautiful mirror sparkle in the light kind of edge. That's what that's for. I don't do that too often. Just a couple knives. Now, usually I use a squirt bottle like this with water with a little Dawn in it. That's what I lubricate them. This is a popular set. If you see, I've marked them with aluminum paint marker, so it's easier to spot. But these are the Venez diamond immersed. There's the diamond stones. They're not just coated on the top. They're embedded into the resin. And these go from 80 up to 1200. They're double-sided. Now if you see, they're not beveled or tapered, as they don't have the aluminum backing plate like the other stones. But you know, the arm is spring loaded and it has enough tension that it really doesn't need it. These fit on there really great. I believe it's the Ulsa series Venez stones, and they're well worth it. They're about 120 bucks for the 3, but that's really 6 stones because they're double-sided, and they work pretty good. Check out my first video. They go through that knife pretty good. I did a reprofile, and that's what I use them for. I use these for blades that need to be reprofiled. They need a real aggressive, and like I said, I can start out at an 800 and take it all the way to 1200. 1200's just fine for most knives. You don't really have to go finer, but I got other stones for that, and that's what this video is going to get into, because we're going to talk about the Spyderco Ceramic stones that here's the medium, and then I have the fine and the ultra fine. So the way this works is that these are alumina ceramic stones, and they don't require any water or oil or anything. You can use them multiple times, and then as they start to get clogged up, and they do, that's the downside, they do start getting clogged up, is you just take them over to your sink and take a little Dawn and a scrubby and some warm water, and you wash them out, and you flush all the blade material, the metal that wears into it, right out of it. So basically what we're looking at is a medium is a 600 grit, the fine is a 2000 grit, and the ultra fine is a 5000. So you say, well, you know, what's good? You can't really start out with a 600. That's not great for sharpening knives. No, these are for what we call a micro bevel, and let me explain what I'm talking about for those that don't. If you know all about it, then just skip through this part. But a micro bevel, alright, so let me get out the drawings. So most knives are going to be sharpened from 15 degrees up to 25 degrees. That depends on what the knife is used for. A 25 degree like this is more of a camp knife. The 15 is more of a kitchen knife, something that's a real slicer. 25 degree has got a lot more meat here behind the point, and it's a lot more durable than the 15 degree. The 15 degree is going to be a better slicer. The 25 degree is going to be a better chopper. But what if you want the best of both worlds? Well, what you can do is start out with a shallow 15 degree, or maybe up to an 18 degree, and that's going to give you a nice slicer, right? But to beef up that tip, that's where the micro bevel comes in. So we can have a primary bevel of 15 degrees come down to the very tip and put in a 20 or 22 degree, all the way up to 25 degree or even steeper secondary bevel. Okay, so now that tip is a little bit beefier at the edge of the blade, but it still has that nice slicey secondary bevel up here. See what we're talking about? Strong here, slicey up there. Micro bevel, that's the name of the game. And the other thing is it makes it easier to sharpen because you're not sharpening such a long expanse. You're just sharpening that one edge. And it makes the blade much more easier to maintain on a daily basis because you can just run the blade on a fine stone or even just a leather strop with some diamond paste on it, because you're just doing the very, very point of the edge. You're not having to remove all that material across your bevel each time you need to sharpen the blade. You're just doing the very, very front edge, that small section where that micro bevel is, and there's a lot less material that needs to be removed in order to keep it sharp, if that makes sense. And all that is what makes me so excited about the new Hapstone RS replacing my old Hapstone. It's a lot more compact. Look at this long arm. It takes up the whole desk here. This one is nice and compact. It snaps off. It's easy to stow. I mean, this is a great unit. It's built like a Trojan horse, you know, but it's big, it's bulky, and profile knives. It's messy with the water and everything. So the ceramic stones on this little RS unit is what I can keep on my desk all the time, handy right here, ready to go, with my ceramic stones sitting right there, and I can just touch up my EDC on a daily basis. I don't have to break out this big Hapstone unit, the old unit, and store it each time. This one's sitting here, right here, and I got my daily EDC I want to touch up. It's right there and ready to go. So sorry for the shaky footage there, but I was just freehandling it. Alright, so what I got here is a Manix 2 lightweight. It's got the factory edge pretty much. Haven't done a whole lot of chopping, but I don't really know what that primary bevel is set at. So I'm going to do the old Sharpie trick here and glide my stone over there and measure it and figure out what my my primary bevel is. And so long story short, it was really, it was about 14 degrees is what I found out it to be. So I'm fine with that. I ran the stone over it at 14 degrees for a little bit, just cleaned up the primary, used my medium Spyderco stone, and then I decided to do a micro bevel at 20 degrees. So let me go ahead and show you how to adjust your bevel degree on the Hapstone RS. So over here to the left, you loosen this thumb screw and you just reach under there and move the tower up and down. Once you loosen it, it'll fall down, so you have to hold it. There's no threads or anything like that. It's just a slip fit. So that's where you kind of get it in the ballpark, fairly close, within a degree or two. And then if you want to fine tune it, you use the top portion here. You loosen that thumb screw and you turn it clockwise to go down or counterclockwise to go up. And you got a couple degrees of fine tuning over here. Make sure you tighten that thumb screw. And once you get the angles set where you want them, you're ready to start sharpening. So one thing I will mention, make sure that you all your clamps are tight. If I did find out that you periodically have to tighten your clamps and make sure that your arm travel screws are tight. They do seem to work a little loose on this RS, just the nature of the beast. Small, light, compact unit. It's not going to be as sturdy as the bigger unit, and especially when you flip it back and forth or you bump it. Good idea to take a Sharpie, mark the blade where the clamps are. That way if it does move, you know it moved, because if your blade moves in the clamps, it's going to change your angle. And if your angle changes and you're on your fine stones instead of your rough stones, then you're just chasing your tail. You're doing a lot of work because your angle's off. Mark your blade with the Sharpie, that way you know if it moved. And any doubt, use your Sharpie and check your bevel against on your stone, just like we did earlier. You know, put a mark on there and make sure you're taking the full mark off, because we're running, you know, really fine stones here, and we don't need to be trying to reprofile with these. We just need to be cleaning up our primary bevel and then putting a micro bevel on the just the very edge of the bevel. So another thing is see how I got the clamp so far in? I don't have it out there towards the tip. That's not giving it good support. So by the time I finish my stroke out there, and as heavy handed as I am, I'm getting a little bit of wobble on that blade. I learned that on my third knife. This was still my second knife, but while I'm editing this and doing the voiceover, I've already done a third knife and figured that part out. So what I should have here is my arm either flipped around or spread further out and support more towards the tip. That way there's less play, because once again, if the blade's wobbling, you're not keeping it at the same angle and you're chasing your tail. So keep this lubed here, keep it nice and smooth, won't annoy you. Like I said, this video is a follow-up. I'm just trying to give you tips of what I've learned so far. So moving back to the Manix 2 here, the medium stone, it'll take you a little bit of work to set your micro bevel. You could go with a coarser stone, but the whole idea here is to be able to maintain the knife with these ceramic stones that don't use water or oil, and something I can keep on my desk. Trick, you see me wipe it off there, so you want to make sure you keep any grit or any loose particles and stuff off the stone and off your blade. So it's good habit to wipe your stones off each time you flip it. And when you do flip it, be gentle. Don't jerk it around too much. That is where I found that if I am going to knock my blade loose from the clamps, it's when I'm flipping it side to side, because the tension is quite strong on the apparatus there. So I learned to grab the knife a little closer to the clamp and just try to be a little more gentle when I flip it from side to side. Now, another mistake I made using the smaller RS is you can see here how heavy-handed I am. I'm rocking that blade all over the place. Every time that blade flexes, I'm changing the angle, so chasing my tail again. Angle the RS where you can see what you're doing, and make sure that you are not being so heavy-handed that you make the same mistake I made there. And that's what these videos are for. I'm not trying to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on everything. I'm just trying to share with you my experiences in the knife hobby and help you make good decisions, and maybe learn and help you enjoy the knife hobby as well. Alright, so once we've worked the Spyderco ceramic stones through the medium, the fine, and the ultra fine, we take it to the leather strop. I have this one coated with the diamond Venez paste for the strop, and worked it on there. And even with all the mistakes I made, I still got a pretty decent edge on this Manix. Here I am testing it out. I have a hard time finding a spot that I still got hair on my arm, but I found one here on the back side, and it definitely passes the shave test. Just takes the hair off like magic. Okay, so let's go over some of the mistakes that I've learned from. First of all, we're going to start with the correct stones. That way we're not working too hard to get our edge. We're going to clamp the knife more securely with clamps as far apart as possible, and not to be so heavy-handed that we rock the blade. Especially be careful when we flip the blade from side to side, because that seems like the worst time that it will jar the blade loose from the clamp. So we want to be extra gentle when we do that. And then we also want to mark the blade with a Sharpie. That way we know if it came loose from the clamps and we have to readjust our angle. That way, once again, we're not chasing our tail. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. It got a lot longer than I expected. Let me mention, don't forget, back there in the background you see that green box. That's October's knife giveaway, the Spyderco Bird Cara 2. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment on the video review of that knife. I want this knife, and you'll be entered, and I'll give that away to one of my lucky subscribers at the end of the month. Also, you got the Benchmade tagged out, 1,000 subscribers. One of y'all is going to win that knife. Thanks for watching the video.